Good evening, everybody. There we go. Now I'm here. So thank you very much for tuning in tonight or when you tune in, because these are always recorded for you. So tonight's class is about your nervous system. So why your nervous system? Why are we talking about that? Well, I'm very, very, very passionate about your nervous system because let's face it, your spine protects the most important thing in your body, and that is your nervous system. And we work with your spine on a regular basis. So that's why I'm so passionate about this. And what we're going to talk about tonight is a couple of different things. One thing we're going to talk about is something called the Merrick chart. And that's a chart that you guys get from us as your new patient visit. And that's the chart that I tell you, hey, go ahead and circle different body parts or organs or organ systems or what have you that are listed there that deal with problems that you're having that you might not have talked to us about. Because we know that a lot of times when patients come into an office, they're thinking, especially with chiropractors, all we care about is neck pain, low back pain, or something like that. Believe it or not, I care about a lot of other things. I really, really do. I want to know if you have, let's say, GERD, if you have reflux. I want to know if your stools are not what they should be. I want to know if you're having painful periods, if you're having difficulty swallowing. I want to know all those things that you would think I wouldn't want to know. But there's a reason for that, and that's because all of those things are controlled by your nervous system. And you see, if we look at your nervous system, there's not a single cell in your body, and there's over 4 trillion cells. There's not a single cell that is not affected by the nervous system. The vast majority of those nerves go through your spinal cord or spinal column. Only 12 nerves are known as your cranial nerves. And even one of those, the vagus nerve, travels on the outside of your spinal column. So if you're looking at a lot of that, that's why I'm very interested in everything you have going on, because I want to track and see what all is getting better. I don't just look at pain, because pain is such a fleeting thing. I've had patients that have been under care that had bad gastro reflex, all right? They have heartburn, very, very bad, and they're taking things like Prilosec, or they're taking omeprazole, or any number of different things that basically what that does is it goes in and it causes your body to leach calcium out of the bone to help neutralize the stomach acid. Okay, but it's taking calcium out of your bone. And that's where we're seeing long-time use of people who use that have things called osteopenia and eventually osteoporosis. Definitely not a good thing. And think about this, not only are you having that, it's not correcting the proper motions of things. We've learned, in fact, in just a class or two ago, we learned that abnormal motion is the #1 cause of arthritis. Well, if you have arthritis and you have a bone softening condition, it's definitely not good, right? It's causing a lot of problems throughout your entire body, especially onto your nervous system. So if we're looking at the nervous system, we know that the vast majority of those nerves travel through your spinal column, and that is like what we have here. That would be this, right? Your spinal column. The vast majority of nerves travel through there because that's where your spinal cord is. And they exit on these little things called posterior spinal nerve roots. And they exit out of something like this little hole that's called an intervertebral foramina, or foramen, if you're talking about multiples. And so they can get pinched. We know that it only takes the weight of a dime. This thing right there, it only takes that much weight to cause 60% change in that nerve. I mean, that's not a lot of weight, guys. That is hardly any weight, and it's causing a huge change. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if you went home and you went to bake something. Let's say you went to bake a cake for your spouse's birthday. And you set the timer on the oven and you set the temperature. And you put that temperature at 350 degrees and you put it for 45 minutes. Okay, that makes sense, right? And it's going to bake that cake beautifully. But let's say that stove is subluxated. And it changes one of those by decreasing it by 60%, and it changes the other by increasing it by 60%. So let's say it increases the temperature by 60% and decreases the time. Well, most likely, if in that scenario, you would have a cake that was burnt on the outside and gooey on the inside, or raw. If it changed the temperature by lessening it by 60%, but changed the time by increasing it by 60%, you'd probably have something that was dried out, but not really flavorful. And if it changed the time by 60% down, so less, and changed the temperature by 60% up, it's going to be all kinds of screwed up. It's probably going to be raw. So there's lots of things that could happen that could change that would make it not right. And that's what happens with our nervous system. If we're subluxated, it can actually cause our body to send a signal that may not be pain, that may cause you to produce less insulin. And by doing so, you're having blood sugar issues, right? Or maybe it produces or causes your body to produce more insulin. And you're having hypoglycemic issues where you're craving things like salty snacks late at night, or you're craving things like chocolate throughout the day, or what have you. Maybe it's causing rubbing on a delta nerve and it's causing pain. And so that can be insane. Or maybe it's rubbing on a nerve and causing the nerve not to notice things, and so we end up with numbness. Or maybe it's causing your heart to beat too extra, beat what we call tachycardic, meaning faster than it should. Or maybe it's bradycardic, meaning it's not beating as fast as it should. Causes blood pressure to go up, causes kidney function to go down. Any number of different things, because all of those organs and organ systems are supplied by nerves through your spinal column and through your spinal cord to the rest of the body. And if there's a subluxation or a misalignment there, it can cause issues all over the place. Your nervous system is the communication highway of your body. It's amazing how that thing works. And it's so easily messed up by pressure in the wrong place or abnormal movement. Because as an abnormal movement happens, then arthritis eventually forms. And once arthritis eventually forms, then more issues happen. It's definitely not good. I have patients that come in to me all the time. Let's take that. I'll tell you about a story. I have he was 66, I believe, when he came in to see me. He had been on Prilosec or the type, whatever it happened to be when he was taking it. And he was taking these GERD medications or reflux medications for years. We're talking over 20 years. And he said, I don't know if I can even be adjusted because I have such bad osteoporosis. And I said, well, let's take some x-rays. Let's take a look and see what's going on. And we'll go from there. So I do. I sit down, I take a look at the x-rays, and yeah, he's got a lot of osteoporosis. But you know what? I can still use this thing called an activator. Looks like this, right? And helps to move the bones for us. So I went ahead and took a look at that at his x-rays and decided, yes, we can still use that. Well, he didn't really tell me that he was on these medications for GERD. And it was interesting because as we're sitting there and adjusting him for neck pain, he said to me, came in, I think on his third or fourth visit, and he said, hey doc, could this have anything to do with heartburn? I said, well, yeah, and actually that's one of the spots that I regularly adjust on you because for whatever reason, it's majorly subluxated. And so we're trying to work on getting that back to where it's holding the proper alignment. And to let you all know, that's kind of T3, T4 area. Okay. So mid back or upper mid back. And he said, it's interesting because I haven't needed to take my medication for my heartburn, and the things that really set me off are things like spaghetti and chocolate cake. And he said, Doc, I actually was craving chocolate cake and I had spaghetti for dinner. And I was like, oh, this is going to be a really bad night. He said, I never had heartburn. Why? And I said, well, because we got that realigned. And it's amazing what can happen. So there's a cardiac sphincter and there's a pyloric sphincter of the stomach. The cardiac sphincter, cardiac because it's by the heart, doesn't have to do anything with the heart. It's just next to the heart. And so that sphincter is what opens to allow food to pass into the stomach and then should close after that to not allow that gastric fluid to come back up, causing GERD or heartburn. Well, if it's left open because it's not getting the signal to close from the brain, food can go down, but it can also come back up. And so it's really interesting by adjusting that area. I've had multiple patients that have actually had a great deal of relief with GERD. And I can tell you story upon story upon story of patients doing similar things in different body functions and things like that. So that's why we need to know. It also helps us to prove to your insurance company that you need to come in. Now, I can prove a lot of things, but it always helps the more information I have, and it helps for you. So when you look at why you come to the chiropractor, it's because we are functional nerve doctors. Think about it. What does functional mean? It means get something to work correctly, right? And what do we get to work correctly? Well, we get your spine to work correctly. And therefore, by getting your spine to work correctly, your nervous system will work as efficiently as it possibly can. And we go to school as long as any other doctor out there. So I hate to say it, we are doctors. We are chiropractors. So keep that in mind. There's nothing you can tell us that would not shock us. And a lot of times we need to know those things. So be open, share your information, and you'll probably find if you're not a new patient in our office and you come in for a new patient visit, this is probably one of the most comprehensive histories and examinations that you would ever have to determine whether or not you have something called a subluxation and how we can help you going forward. It's amazing what can happen. And I've been to a doctor recently with my wife and for certain conditions. And it was surprising how little time we spent with the doctor, how little time we spent with the team members or staff there, and how much money it cost just to do that. One visit was over $500. And people say, well, chiropractic is expensive. 1 month of chiropractic care might be close to $500. That's several visits within there. Several visits. Not just one. So when you're looking at how we can help, well, it's simple. There's not a single nerve or a single cell in the body that's not controlled by your nervous system. And what we do is we help correct the alignments that are putting pressure on that nervous system. And therefore, we are helping your body to function the most appropriately that we can. And we love to work with other doctors to help them get better efficacy with their medications or what have you. I will never tell you to stop taking a medication or to take a medication. That's not my job. My job is your spine and to help you function better. and to talk and work with your medical doctors, because there are some medications I need to know you're on. Some medications doesn't matter if I know, but some of them I need to know, because by being on those medications, it can make it more difficult for you to be adjusted. So working with them is actually one of the best things, because then I can say, hey, I'm seeing this, this, and this all the time. And they say, we have wondered about that, and so we work together for your best interest. It's amazing what can happen. So if you're wondering how we can help you, give us a call. If you're wondering if we can help your brother, your sister, your cousin, your aunt, your friend, your whoever, give us a call on their behalf. We'll gladly set up an appointment for them. It's amazing what can happen if you just take the pressure off a nerve. How much the body can heal. How much the body can regain a function. How much better you will be. So give us a call and let's help you get to better health. We look forward to working with you in the very near future. And as always, we will see you later this week and early next week for your adjustments. Thank you very much and have a beautiful evening. Bye-bye.